Hi, my name is Marcy Mell, and I'm working with EnergyAlberta. My goal is to help you learn more about the environment in relation to the Peace River Nuclear Power Project. In this session, we'll be discussing the environment. I will present EnergyAlberta's commitment to environmental stewardship. We'll review what is an impact assessment. We'll discuss some of the potential impacts the project may have on the environment. And finally, I'll provide an outlook on what will be happening over the next 12 to 18 months. EnergyAlberta is deeply committed to environmental stewardship. We're focused on sustainable water management and protecting the Peace River watershed. Our principles include sustainability, protection, compliance, Indigenous and community engagement, transparency, and education. We're not just going to meet the regulations, we're aiming to exceed them. An impact assessment is a structured process that we use to evaluate how a proposed project might affect the environment, human health, and Indigenous and local communities. It's not just a regulatory requirement, but it is a tool for responsible planning and decision making. Key objectives of our impact assessment. We assess both the potential benefits and risks, which are environmental, social, and health related. This includes everything from air and water quality to wildlife, community well-being, and Indigenous rights. The assessment provides decision makers such as the provincial and federal governments with the information they need to determine whether or not the project should proceed, and if so, under what conditions. It helps shape the design and implementation to minimize harm and maximize benefits. We want this process to be open and inclusive. Indigenous and local communities, landowners, and the public are invited to participate, ask questions, and share concerns. We're committed to sustainability, not just in environmental terms, but also in how the project supports long-term community and economic health. This means adopting practices that reduce negative impacts and enhance positive contributions. Protecting public health and safety is paramount. We identify any risks to human health early on and will develop strategies to mitigate them. This includes things like emergency preparedness, radiation safety, and water protection. Overall, this process is designed to ensure that your voice is heard and that your environment is protected. It's about building trust, being transparent, and making sure the project aligns with community values and expectations. Let's take a closer look at how we identify and assess potential effects. This is the structured approach we follow to understand and address potential environmental and community impacts from the project. Right now, we're between the scoping and current conditions phases. This means we're actively identifying what needs to be studied, gathering data about the current state of the environment and community. At every phase, we're engaging with Indigenous and local communities, local governments, landowners, and the public. Your feedback helps shape what we study, how we study it, and how we respond to concerns. The project description is the starting point. It outlines what the project is, where it's located, and what it involves. In scoping, we define the study areas and key topics. We ask things like, what are the potential environmental and social effects, and what matters most to the community. We collect data on air, water, land, wildlife, and community health to understand what's already there before any development begins. And then using that information, we analyze how the project might affect these current conditions, both positively or negatively. We identify ways to reduce negative impacts and enhance positive ones. So this could include things like design changes, protective measures, and community benefits. But even after mitigation, some effects may remain. So we further evaluate these to determine whether the conclusions are acceptable. If needed, we go back to the engineering team and apply additional measures to further limit effects. We develop plans to track environmental and social conditions throughout all phases of the project, including construction, operations, decommissioning, and even beyond decommissioning, to confirm that mitigations are performing as planned and that the environment is being protected. This final step ensures that commitments are met and that any unexpected issues are addressed. After all of this, we compile the findings into a comprehensive impact statement report that informs decision makers. The impact statement report is reviewed by both provincial and federal regulators, and based on the conclusions of the assessment, they make a decision on whether or not to allow the project to proceed, and if so, under what conditions. So let's get into the specifics on environmental considerations. For the assessment, we're looking at impacts across 4 key areas: atmosphere, water, land, and people. We understand that air quality is a concern for many communities. We're assessing potential emissions from construction and operation, including dust, particulate matter, and any other pollutants. Modern nuclear facilities are designed with advanced filtration systems that considerably reduce air emissions. One of the major benefits of nuclear energy is that it produces very low greenhouse gas emissions, which makes nuclear power a strong contributor to Canada's climate goals and efforts to reduce carbon emissions. We're evaluating how the project might affect the surrounding area in terms of noise, light, and visual changes. For example, how would the noise from the facility affect nearby residents? Will there be a disruption to wildlife movements from the noise? Noise levels will be monitored and managed through things like soundproofing and operational controls. We're also considering how lighting might affect nearby residents and wildlife, and how the facility will look from different viewpoints. We're using baseline data and modeling to assess these factors, which helps us design mitigation measures that are effective and responsive to local concerns. Water is one of the most important environmental components we're studying in this impact assessment. The Peace River is a vital resource, and we're committed to protecting its health and the ecosystem it supports. We're assessing both the quantity and quality of groundwater in the region. This includes understanding how construction and operations might affect underground aquifers, wells, and recharge zones. We're also looking at how groundwater interacts with surface water and ecosystems. For the surface water studies, we're focusing on the Peace River and its tributaries. We're evaluating flow rates, seasonal variations, and water quality indicators like temperature, turbidity, and nutrient levels. This helps us understand how water withdrawals and infrastructure might affect aquatic life and downstream users. We're also studying fish species health, migration patterns, spawning areas, and habitat conditions in the Peace River. Using this information, we'll develop monitoring programs to track water quality and quantity throughout the project life cycle. If any risks are identified, we'll implement mitigation measures such as adjusting intake volumes or enhancing fish habitat. The Peace River region is rich in biodiversity, cultural significance, and ecological value, and we're committed to understanding and protecting it. We're studying the physical characteristics of the land, its topography, soil types, and stability. This helps us understand how construction might affect things like soil quality, which we know is important for restoration during decommissioning. Vegetation plays a key role in maintaining ecosystem health. We're identifying plant communities, including riparian zones and wetlands, which are especially sensitive. We're also mapping areas with rare or culturally significant plants, including those used in traditional indigenous practices. We're conducting wildlife surveys to understand which wildlife species live in the area, their distribution, and their habitat. Special attention is given to species at risk and migratory birds, which are protected under federal legislation. If we identify sensitive habitats or rare species, we'll develop mitigation strategies. These could include buffer zones, timing restrictions for construction, and habitat restoration plans. We're currently engaging with Indigenous communities and working to establish meaningful relationships so that frameworks can be established to collaborate on the studies being planned and to incorporate Indigenous knowledge and ensure culturally significant areas are protected. The people component of the impact assessment looks at how the project may affect individuals, families, and Indigenous and local communities, economically, socially, and in terms of health and well-being. We're assessing how the project could influence local employment, business opportunities, and economic development. This includes job creation during construction and operation, training programs, and support for local suppliers and contractors. We're also looking at potential pressures on housing, infrastructure, and transportation. Human health is a key focus. We're evaluating potential effects on physical and mental health and how changes to the environment might indirectly affect people. Community health and well-being includes access to services, social cohesion, and overall quality of life. Safety is paramount. We're developing emergency preparedness plans, radiation safety protocols, and how the project will be designed to protect workers and the public. This includes coordination with local emergency services and health authorities. We're also looking at how the project might affect social dynamics such as population changes, community density, and cultural practices. This includes potential impacts on recreational areas, traditional land use, and community gathering spaces. We're hoping to work closely with Indigenous communities to understand how the project may affect their rights, interests, and cultural connections to the land and water. This includes land and resource use, access to traditional territories, and protection of sacred sites. In addition to engaging with municipal governments, stakeholders, landowners, local communities, and other interested parties, the Federal Impact Assessment Act requires the meaningful consideration of Indigenous knowledge throughout the impact assessment process. Respectfully incorporating Indigenous knowledge not only fulfills legislative obligations, but it also reflects Canada's commitment to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and supports the broader spirit of reconciliation. This approach recognizes the unique relationship Indigenous peoples have with their land, their deep-rooted cultural perspectives, and the value of traditional knowledge in understanding environmental, social, and health impacts. By fostering respectful, inclusive, and transparent dialogue, EnergyAlberta aims to build trust, strengthen relationships, and provide opportunity for Indigenous voices to meaningfully shape project outcomes. Water is a vital resource for both the environment and the communities that depend on it. At EnergyAlberta, we take our responsibility to protect the Peace River and surrounding ecosystems very seriously. Our operations are governed by local, provincial, and federal regulations to ensure responsible water use and environmental protection. This includes obtaining a Water Act license, which requires a comprehensive study of the area. Detailed studies are already underway and will inform our application for a water license. We'll implement environmental programs to monitor, track, and analyze the health of the surrounding ecosystems. These programs help us detect changes early and respond quickly to protect both the environment and public health. As we move forward with the project, we'll be completing detailed environmental studies. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we'll conduct studies on the atmosphere, land, and water. We're not just doing this alone, though. We're actively engaging with local governments, Indigenous and local communities, landowners, and the public. Your input helps shape the scope and focus of these studies. We invite you to share your knowledge of local conditions, whether it's seasonal changes in water levels, wildlife sightings, or areas of cultural importance. Your ideas and observations help us ensure that the studies are accurate, respectful, and relevant, and that environmental protection is built into every stage of the project. Now we'd love to hear from you. What environmental features should we be aware of in the project area? Are there any environmental areas of study that we are missing?